Let us start topic of functions in programming fundamental. The first question is that why we use functions. The answer is that a program may need to repeat the same piece of code at various places. It may be required to perform certain tasks repeatedly. Another reason of using function is that the program may become very large if functions are not used. And the real reason for using function is to divide your program into different parts. Now let us discuss that what is a function. The basic idea behind functions in programming language is that we may put some commonly or repeatedly done tasks together and make a function, so that instead of writing the same code again and again for different input, we may call the function. So definition of function is a group of statements that works together to perform a specific task. Every C++ program has at least one function, and the name of that function is main function. Functions are used to provide modularity to program. A function can only run when it is called. Now we discuss about the benefits of using functions in programming languages. The first benefit of using function is reusability. Actually, we can define a function and can use it as many number of times as required. The next benefit is reducing code redundancy. Function help us in reducing code redundancy. If functionality is performed at multiple places in any software or program, then rather than writing the same code again and again, we create a function and call it everywhere. This also helps in maintenance, as we have to change at one place if we make future changes to the functionality. Next benefit of using function is modularity. Function makes your code modular. Consider a big file having lines of code mean multiple lines of code. It becomes really simple to read and use code if the code is divided into functions. Next benefit is function provide abstraction. For example, we can use library function without worrying about their internal working. Next benefit is that function makes our program easier to understand, easier to maintain, and easier to modify. To understand the concept of function, let us discuss boss to worker analogy. A boss or the calling or caller function asks a worker, mean the called function, to perform a task and return result when it's done. So here boss may divide the main bigger task into smaller subtasks and then assign these subtasks to various workers. The workers gets the task and return it to the boss after completion. Here the main function divides the program into various independent tasks in the form of functions such as function A, function B, function Z. There is a chance that a function may use sub-functions as well. Like function B is a calling function B1 and B2. Now types of functions in C++. Built-in functions. Basically, built-in functions are part of compiler. We can directly use these functions without defining them. Basically, these functions are used to perform basic operations like input, output, or mathematical basic operations. Other functions are user-defined functions. C++ allows us to define our own function. We can define these functions anywhere in the program and then call these functions from any part of the code. These functions also need to be declared before they are called. User-defined functions are created to perform certain tasks. Now we discuss their detail. Built-in functions are predefined function. Built-in functions are also known as library function. C++ standard library provides numerous built-in functions that your program can call. For example, function ceil to find ceiling of a real number, and function floor, that is also built-in function, and it is used to find floor of real number, and many more functions are also available. We can directly call these functions when needed. User-defined functions, those functions which user writes for his own purpose. A user-defined function groups code to perform a specific task, and that group of code is given a specific name. That name must be an identifier. When the function is invoked from any part of program, it executes the code defined within the body of that function. Now let us discuss need for these user-defined functions. If a program is divided into functional parts, then each part may be independently coded and later combined into a single unit. It is also possible to code any program utilizing only main function. It leads to a number of problems. The program may become too large and complex, and as a result, the task of debugging, the task of testing and maintaining becomes very difficult. Those functions are much easier to understand, debug and test. Main user-defined functions are easier to understand, easier to debug and easier to test. There are times when some type of operation or calculation is repeated at many points throughout a program. In such situation, we may repeat the program statement whenever they are needed with the help of function. Another approach is to design a function that can be called and used whenever required. Built-in predefined library function example: hash include iostream, hash include math.h. It's a header file that contains basic mathematical functions using namespace std. Its main function, body of main function, its declaration of a positive integer variable that is unsigned int a, then ask the user to enter value of a, read value of a, and here display a text message and the value of under root of a. So the under root of a is sqrt, that is a. Then system pass return 0. Let us execute this program. Please enter a positive number. Suppose user enter a number 16. The square root of 16 is 4. Now let us discuss that how the function works. C++ program does not execute the statement in function until the function is called. When function is called, the program can send the function information in the form of one or more arguments. When the function is used, it is referred to as the called function. Functions often uses data that is passed to them from the calling function. Data is passed from the calling function to a called function by specifying the variables in argument list. Now discuss transfer of control in functions. starting instructions of program, then main function body, statements within the body of main function, then call to a user defined function, and the name of function is users function. So the control will transfer from this instruction to user defined function, that is users function, execute the body of users function, and then return the control back to main program. Control will return at statement after user defined function or to any expression that is calling this function. That is ending of program. Now the concept of calling function and called function, its main function, statements within the body of main function, it's a user defined function, transfer of control towards user defined function, its execution of user defined function, mean execute all statements within the body of user defined function. This function is called function, and after execution of this function, control will transfer to this function, and the name of this function is calling function. Now let us discuss about parts of function. The parts of function are return type of the function, name of the function, parameter or argument list associated with the function, body of the function. Return type of a function may return a value. The return type is basically data type of the value the function returns. Some functions perform the desired operation without returning a value, and in this case when function returns no value, then we use keyword void. Then name of function or function name, this is the actual name of function. The function name and the parameter list together constitute the function signature. The name of function must be identifier. Parameters. A parameter is like a placeholder. When a function is invoked, you pass a value to the parameter. This value is referred to as actual parameter or actual argument. The parameter list refers to type, order and number of parameters. These three informations are very important information in any function. Parameters are optional, that is, a function may contain no parameters as well. Then body of function. The function body contains a collection of statements that define what the function does. Mean the statements to carry out main task of the function are defined within the body of main function, within this function. So example showing parts of user defined functions. It's a sample program that is basically adding two user defined numbers. Hash include IOStream using namespace std. It's a main function. It's calling of user defined function. Basically its definition of user defined function having four parts. The first part is return type of the function. The second one, add, is name of the function as an identifier, and its list of argument, that is int x and int y are two arguments passed to this function. And from this curly bracket to this curly bracket, its body of user defined function